You've probably done it before. You closed your eyes. You tried to breathe deeply. You told your mind to be still, and for a few seconds, it seemed to work, until it didn't. Because somewhere between the inhale and the exhale, your thoughts came back, louder, faster, hungrier, and in that moment, whether you realized it or not, you joined millions of others silently wondering, why isn't this working? But here's the truth no one talks about. Most people don't fail at meditation because they're bad at it. They fail because what they were told meditation isn't what meditation actually is. What if I told you that stillness is not the goal, that silence is not the answer, that those moments of restlessness and failure were actually the most powerful part of the practice, and you've been trying to escape them? Stay with me, because in this video, we're going to unravel the ancient, often misunderstood science behind why traditional meditation methods fail for modern minds, and how the hidden structures of your nervous system, your trauma response, and even your spiritual ego are silently sabotaging your practice. We'll talk about why the clear your mind advice might be making things worse, the real reason your body tenses during stillness, and how to fix it, a forgotten teaching from a 13th century mystic that could change everything, and why trying to relax is the fastest way to stay trapped in chaos. And near the end, I'll show you a technique that takes less than 2 minutes, requires no silence, and may create deeper shifts in your consciousness than hours of forced stillness ever could. But first, we have to unlearn, because meditation was never meant to be a war with your mind. It was meant to be a reunion, and the part of you that's listening to this right now, it already knows that. So before we go further, pause. Comment below if this already hit something real. Have you ever felt like meditation just wasn't made for you? You're not alone, and it's not your fault. Like this video if you've ever sat in silence and heard everything except peace. And subscribe, because by the end of this journey, you won't just be meditating, you'll be remembering. Let's start with the most persistent lie. Just clear your mind. Simple, right? Except your mind isn't designed to be empty. Its job, its survival mechanism, is to anticipate, narrate, predict, protect. Telling your mind to be silent is like telling your heart to stop beating. It misunderstands the nature of the system. So here's what really happens. You sit down, you close your eyes, you try to clear your thoughts. At first, the mind obeys, briefly. It listens, like a dog told to stay. But just when you think you've won, it surges back with 10 times the intensity. Random thoughts, memories, embarrassments from 5 years ago, and worst of all, your own judgment. This isn't working. I must be doing it wrong. Why can't I just be still like everyone else? But here's the truth. That chaos, that noise, that flood of nonsense, it's not failure, it's release. The moment you give the mind space, it starts emptying what it never had the time to process. Your failure is actually emotional detox, and like all detoxes, it gets worse before it gets better. So what if the thoughts coming up aren't distractions, but debris? What if the goal isn't silence, but saturation? To let the mind pour it all out, without interference, until it finds a rhythm that doesn't need your control. Because the deepest meditative states aren't forced, they're surrendered into. And surrender doesn't mean letting go of your thoughts. It means letting go of your war with them. Most guided meditations teach avoidance. Let the thoughts float away. Picture a peaceful lake. But none of that works when your subconscious is screaming under the surface, because beneath the mental noise is emotional noise, and beneath that is something much older. We'll talk about that in part 4. But next, we'll explore the role your nervous system plays in sabotaging your inner stillness, and why calm sometimes feels like danger. Have you ever wondered why your body suddenly feels restless the moment you sit still? The itch on your nose, the urge to swallow, the leg that goes numb, the flood of tension in your chest that wasn't there a minute ago. You're not imagining it. Your nervous system is wired for movement, not mindfulness, because for most of human history, stillness meant danger. When you were still, you were hiding. When you were still, you were prey. So when you sit down in silence today, your body doesn't interpret it as a spiritual practice. It interprets it as vulnerability. And if your body has trauma, recent or ancient, conscious or buried, that silence becomes the perfect space for it to surface. This is why your heart races when you close your eyes, why your stomach tightens, why your breath becomes shallow even when you're trying to relax. It's not failure, it's memory, a body remembering what it was never allowed to process. And here's the irony. The more you try to relax, the more your system resists, because effort, even subtle, is read as tension, and tension triggers defense. So what's the fix? First, we stop trying to silence the body. We stop fighting the restlessness. We learn to listen to it, because in every twitch, every flinch, every shallow breath, there's a message, a story, a moment frozen in your tissues, asking to be felt, not fixed. And the moment you meet it with presence instead of pressure, something shifts. You stop doing meditation, and you start being meditated. In the next part, we'll talk about the forgotten wisdom of ancient practices that didn't start with the mind at all. They started with the body. But before we go there, comment below if your body has ever fought back during meditation. You're not broken, you're remembering. Like this video if you've ever felt like stillness made things louder. And subscribe, because we're just starting to unlock the part of meditation that no app ever taught you. Modern meditation starts at the top, in the mind. Observe your thoughts. Focus on the breath. Repeat this mantra. But the ancients, they started from below. In yogic systems, meditation didn't begin with sitting still. It began with movement, breath, sound, rhythm, because they understood something we've forgotten. The body is the gateway, not the obstacle. Before you were taught to watch your thoughts, you were taught to ground your energy, to awaken dormant tension, to shake, release, spiral, chant, not as ritual, but as recalibration. Why? Because they knew you cannot take the elevator to silence if the foundation is still trembling. What we now call preparation was, in ancient terms, the actual practice. Stillness was not the starting point, it was the natural result. So when you force yourself into silence without first unlocking the body's story, you're skipping the warm-up and calling it the game. This is why traditional paths emphasized breath before thought, posture before mantra, embodiment before transcendence. Stillness was never forced, it was earned, and not through discipline, but through surrender. In many ancient schools, it would take years before a student was even allowed to meditate in stillness. Until then, they danced, they sweat, they trembled, they breathed, until the breath breathed them. And here we are, downloading an app, expecting the same depth in 10 minutes. No wonder so many feel like they've failed. But here's the beauty. It's not too late to remember. In the next part, we'll explore the hidden mechanism behind why forced relaxation often backfires, and why true calm feels more like coming home than zoning out. But before we go, leave a comment if you've ever felt like your body wasn't ready for silence. That's not failure, that's wisdom. And if this hits somewhere real, like this video, subscribe, and let's keep unraveling the forgotten truth behind why meditation was never meant to be a performance. There's a strange paradox in modern meditation. The more you try to relax, the more restless you feel. The more you tell your mind to be still, the louder it becomes. Why? Because trying to relax is still trying, and trying is tension. We think we're guiding the mind, but we're actually bargaining with it. Forcing stillness is just another flavor of control. It's spiritual performance, disguised in silence, driven by anxiety. Here's the truth most won't say. If you're using meditation as a way to get away from discomfort, you're not meditating, you're managing. You're negotiating with your nervous system, saying, if I do this right, maybe I'll finally feel peace. But peace isn't a reward. It's a baseline, one you uncover when you stop chasing it. Imagine this. You sit down to meditate, but instead of closing your eyes and trying to relax, you do something radical. You listen, not to the breath, not to the thoughts, but to the part of you that's resisting it all. You get curious about the tension. You stop pushing it away. You let the restlessness speak. And that moment, that surrender, is the doorway, not to emptiness, but to integration. Because real meditation isn't about silencing what's inside you. It's about giving it a seat at the table, letting it be, until it no longer needs to scream to be heard. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the trap of goal-based spirituality and why meditation stops working the moment it becomes a performance. But first, comment below if you've ever tried to relax and ended up more anxious. Your nervous system isn't broken. It's doing its job. Like this if this part of the journey made something click. And subscribe if you're starting to feel that meditation isn't about escape. It's about return. There's a strange kind of pressure that grows the deeper you go into the world of meditation. The pressure to appear centered, calm, unbothered. You start performing peace. You smile through anxiety. You sit perfectly still, even as your insides are shaking. And no one notices, because on the outside, you look spiritual. But this is the most seductive trap of all, because now you're not just escaping discomfort. You're escaping it in the name of awakening. This is called spiritual bypassing. When we use practices like meditation to avoid what actually needs to be faced. You say you're meditating, but really you're hiding. You say you're seeking truth, but really you're rehearsing calm. And the longer you do it, the more disconnected you become, not from the world, but from yourself. Real meditation isn't about looking peaceful. It's about becoming honest. Sometimes that honesty looks like grief, sometimes rage, sometimes silence so loud it drowns you. And that's okay, because awakening doesn't always feel good. At first, it often feels like loss of illusions, control, masks. But what comes after? Clarity, grounding, freedom. In the next part, we'll explore a 13th century mystic's forgotten insight, one that flips the entire concept of stillness on its head. But before we get there, comment if you've ever felt like your spiritual self was hiding something. You're not alone. And if this part made you feel seen, like this video, subscribe for more truth beneath the surface. In the 13th century, a mystic named Ibn Arabi wrote something that few understood then, and even fewer remember now. He said, "The stillness you seek is not the absence of motion, but the motion of presence itself." Read that again. It means that real stillness isn't the absence of movement. It's the full inhabiting of it, not suppression, not restraint, but total awareness inside motion, so full that it becomes indistinguishable from stillness. To him, meditation was not sitting silently in a cave. It was learning to be awake inside the movement of reality, the flow of time, the pull of breath, the dance of thought. He spoke of silent walking, where every step was a prayer. He described listening to God in noise, where even chaos had rhythm. To him, what we call distraction was just God wearing a different mask. And yet today, we call ourselves failed meditators because we can't sit still in silence for 10 minutes. We forget the ancients didn't worship stillness. They entered it through breath, through movement, through total presence inside whatever was arising. They didn't try to escape the world to find God. They found the divine inside the ordinary. That's what we've lost. We turned meditation into isolation, a disconnection from the body, from noise, from emotion. But presence isn't found in avoidance. It's forged in the fire of what you dare to feel. In the next part, I'll guide you through a forgotten technique, rooted in movement, not silence, that may unlock a form of presence deeper than stillness itself. But first, comment below. What did that quote awaken in you? And if you felt that deep tug, if something ancient stirred inside you, like this video. Subscribe to remember what you were never really taught, but somehow always knew. You've heard enough theory, now let's touch practice. But don't worry, this isn't a traditional meditation. No timer, no posture, no rules, just you and a moment. So here's what you'll do. Wherever you are right now, sit or stand comfortably. Let your eyes soften, but don't force them closed. Now, turn your attention to the edges of your body, not your breath, not your thoughts, just the outer boundary of your physical form. Can you feel your skin, the outline of your arms, your legs, your face? Now, instead of calming yourself, let the edges dissolve. Let the separation between you and the space around you blur. You don't have to imagine it. Just notice what shifts. Now bring your awareness to the space behind your thoughts. Not the thoughts themselves, but the silence behind them, the backdrop. Feel it, even for a second. That is presence. It doesn't matter if your mind is noisy. It doesn't matter if your body is fidgeting. That moment, when you feel the space around it all, is meditation. Not because it's quiet, but because you are no longer trying to control it. You're witnessing, and in that witnessing, the noise begins to organize itself, like a room that cleans itself the moment you stop trying to rearrange it. Now take a breath, but don't change it. Just watch it. Watch it arrive, watch it leave, and do nothing. This is not a technique, it's a remembering of what it's like to just be. In the next parts, we'll deepen this space, but for now, let this be enough. Let presence be simple. Let meditation be human again. And if this moment touched something real in you, comment below. Tell me what it felt like, not what you achieved, but what you noticed. Like this if you felt the shift, even for a few seconds. And subscribe, because this isn't the end. It's the return. Presence isn't something you visit. It's something you return to, again and again, not because you're disciplined, but because you're done with distraction. The biggest myth of meditation is that it requires perfect conditions, silence, cushions, candles, time. But real presence shows up when you don't have any of those. It slips in while you're washing dishes, waiting at a red light, watching someone you love talk about something you don't understand. Presence doesn't demand you stop life, it invites you into it. So how do you keep it? You don't. You just remember it exists. You let it return on its own, like breath, like gravity, like a rhythm beneath all your chaos that never stopped playing. You don't chase presence, you make space for it. You feel your feet on the ground while answering emails. You pause for 2 seconds before reacting. You speak slower, you chew fully, you breathe, like someone who's allowed to. And slowly, without realizing it, you stop meditating, because now you are the meditation, not in performance, not in posture, but in frequency. You carry the stillness you used to seek, and it ripples out into how you listen, how you touch, how you speak. The final part of this journey isn't about doing anything new. It's about seeing yourself as someone who never needed fixing in the first place. We'll close with that in part 10. But first, comment below. Have you ever felt presence in the middle of a mess? If yes, you're closer than you think. Like this, if you want more presence and less perfection. Subscribe, because you've already begun remembering. And now, we return. So why do most meditations fail? Because they're built like cages, not gateways. Because they chase silence instead of meeting what's already there. Because they confuse performance with presence. But now you know. Meditation doesn't begin when the world goes quiet. It begins when you stop running. From your thoughts, from your breath, from that ache in your chest you've carried since you were young. And in that moment, when you stop trying to fix yourself, you meet something deeper, not peace, not silence, but something older than both, stillness. Not the stillness of nothingness, the stillness that holds everything, the grief, the joy, the chaos. You are not failing at meditation. You are just learning to stay with the discomfort, stay with the mess, stay with the truth that presence was never outside you. It was buried under years of spiritual pretending, but now you've touched it, and once touched, it never truly leaves you. So don't ask how to meditate better, ask how to remember faster, how to return, not to a technique, but to a way of being that's already inside you. You don't need to try harder, you need to listen deeper. The failure wasn't yours, the failure was the framework. Now you know better, now you begin. So tell me, what part of this journey woke something in you? Comment below, say it out loud, not to impress, but to integrate, like this if something softened. And subscribe, not just for more content, but to keep remembering who you were before the noise. This isn't just a video, it's a mirror, and the reflection is getting clearer.